plane sat on the runway, a silhouette against the setting sun. Its metallic hull glinted in the fading light, casting an almost ethereal glow. The scene was serene, yet there was an underlying tension that was hard to ignore. The sky, painted in hues of orange and purple, seemed to hold its breath, as if anticipating something monumental. The plane, a marvel of human engineering, stood still, waiting for its moment to soar into the heavens. But for now, it was just a shadow against the vibrant canvas of the evening sky. Long shadows stretched out from beneath its wings, like claws reaching for the tail. These shadows seemed almost alive, creeping slowly across the tarmac as the sun dipped low. The terminal, usually bustling with activity, was eerie. The only sound being the distant hum of engines and the occasional announcement of the shadows, dark and gray, seemed to whisper secrets. They moved in a light of their own, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation and unease. The air was thick with smells, and a growing sense of unease. The fume, almost tangible, hung in the air, mixing with the cool evening breeze. It was a scent that spoke of journeys yet to be taken and adventures waiting just beyond the horizon. But tonight it carried a different weight, a sense of foreboding that was hard to shake. The runway, usually a place of excitement and anticipation, felt heavy with an unspoken tension. Every breath seemed to draw in not just air, but the palpable anxiety that lingered in the atmosphere. A young girl, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, clutched her mother's hand as they approached the metal jar. Her small fingers tightened around her mother's, seeking comfort and reassurance. The plane loomed large before them, its presence both awe-inspiring and intimidating. The girl had dreamed of this moment for weeks, imagining the thrill of flying high above the clouds. Now, standing so close to the massive aircraft, she couldn't help but feel a flutter of fear. Her mother, sensing her daughter's unease, gave her hand a gentle squeeze and whispered soothingly. This was it, the family vacation they had been planning for months. Every detail had been meticulously arranged, from the flights to the hotel reservations. They had talked about the vendors, their excitement building with each passing day, the promise of new experiences and cherished memories that kept them going through the Now, as they stood on the brink of their adventure, the reality of it was finally sinking in. The anticipation was almost overwhelming, a mix of joy and nervous energy that buzzed in the air. Her father, a sturdy man with a reassuring smile, hoisted her back on his shoulder and ushered them towards the gate. He was the rock of the family, always calm and composed, no matter the situation. His presence was a source of comfort, a steady anchor in the midst of the swirling emotions. As he led them towards the plane, he spoke in a steady, confident voice, sharing stories of his own childhood travels and the adventures that awaited them. His words were like a balm, soothing the nervous energy that crackled around them. He told jokes to lighten the mood, but the girl couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. His laughter, usually so infectious, seemed to fall flat, unable to dispel the growing sense of unease. The girl glanced around, her eyes darting from one shadow to another, as if expecting something to leap out at any moment. Her father's jokes, though well-intentioned, did little to calm her racing heart. She tried to smile, to join in the laughter, but the feeling of dread clung to her like a second skin, refusing to let go. The shadows seemed to be whispering, and the air crackled with an unseen energy. Inside the plane, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The shadows, cast by the dim cabin lights, danced and flickered, creating an almost surreal landscape. They seemed to move with a purpose, whispering secrets that only the girl could hear. The air was charged, every breath filled with an electric anticipation. It was as if the plane itself was alive, aware of the journey that was about to begin. The girl shivered, feeling the weight of the shadows pressing down on her, their whispers growing louder. Little did they know their dreams were about to turn. The excitement and anticipation of the could soon be replaced by fear and uncertainty. The journey that promised so much joy and adventure would take an unexpected turn, plunging them into a world of shadows and mysteries. As the plane's engines roared to life and it began to taxi down the runway, the family remained blissfully unaware of the darkness that awaited them. They were on the brink of an experience that would change them forever. A journey into the unknown that would test their courage and resilience in ways they could never have imagined. The girl's name was Emily. She was embarking on her first ever flight, a journey that promised to be filled with excitement and a touch of nervousness. She was 10 years old, with inquisitive eyes and a thirst for adventure. Her mind buzzed with questions about the mechanics of flight and the destination. Her older brother, Ethan, 2 years to see, failed boarding, but she could see the excitement in his eyes. He had always been more reserved. But even he couldn't hide his curiosity about the journey ahead. Their parents, seasoned travellers, seemed unfazed by the hustle and bustle of the airport. They had planned this trip meticulously, ensuring every detail was perfect for their family's adventure. But Emily couldn't ignore the prickling sensation on the back of her neck. The unfamiliar environment of the airplane, the hum of the engines, and the anticipation of takeoff made her both excited and a little anxious. They found their seats, Emily by the window, her nose pressed against the cool glass. She marveled at the intricate dance of the ground crew and the other planes preparing for their overhaul. As the plane taxied down the runway, she watched the ground crew thrill. The realization that she was about to leave the ground for the first time filled her with a mix of awe and trepidation. The roar of the engines vibrated in her teeth, and she felt a thrill course through her veins. The plane's acceleration pushed her back into her seat, and she gripped the armrest tightly, her heart pounding with excitement. They were airborne, soaring above the clouds, leaving all her worries behind. Or so she thought. As the plane leveled off, Emily's mind began to wander. She thought about the adventures that awaited them at their destination, the new experiences and the memories they would create as a family. The sky stretched out endlessly before them, a canvas of possibilities. The flight was long. The drone of the engines a lullaby that lulled most of the passengers to sleep. Emily, however, couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. She kept hearing whispers, faint and indistinct, slithering around the edges of her awareness. When she turned to look, there was nothing there. Just the darkened cabin and the sleeping faces. She tried to focus on her book, but the words swam before her eyes. A cold draft seemed to emanate from the overhead compartment, sending chills down her spine. She pulled her blanket tighter, her heart pounding in her chest. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. Section 4. Claws in the cabin. The flight had been uneventful so far, with passengers settling into their seats, some dozing off while others watched movies or read books. Emily, seated by the window, was lost in her thoughts, gazing at the clouds outside. The hum of the engines was almost soothing, a constant reminder of the journey they were on. A sudden jolt shook the plane, throwing Emily against her seat. The turbulence came out of nowhere, catching everyone off guard. Luggage compartments rattled, and a few overhead bins popped open, spilling their contents into the air. Emily's heart raced as she gripped the armrest, trying to steady herself. The lights flickered, plunging the cabin into darkness. For a moment there was an eerie silence, broken only by the hum of the engines and the occasional clatter of loose items. The darkness seemed to stretch on forever, amplifying the sense of dread that was beginning to creep into Emily's mind. Screams erupted from the passengers, a chorus of fear that sent shivers down Emily's spine. People were shouting, crying and calling out for help. The once calm and orderly cabin had descended into chaos, with flight attendants trying to restore some semblance of order amidst the panic. Then, from the shadows at the back of the plane, came a sound that chilled her to the core. It was a low, guttural growl, unlike anything she'd ever heard before. The sound seemed to reverberate through the cabin, making the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. A low growl, guttural and menacing, sent a wave of terror through the aircraft. Passengers looked around in confusion and fear, trying to locate the source of the sound. The atmosphere in the cabin had shifted from panic to sheer terror as the growl grew louder and more menacing. Emily's eyes darted to the source of the sound, her breath caught in her throat. She could feel her pulse quicken as she strained to see through the dim light. The growl was getting closer, and she knew that whatever was making that sound was not human. Silhouetted against the dim emergency lights, she saw it. A figure, hunched and menacing, moving slowly down the aisle. The emergency lights cast long, eerie shadows, making the figure appear even more terrifying. Emily's mind raced as she tried to comprehend what she was seeing. A creature of nightmare, its eyes glowing an eerie red in the darkness. The eyes seemed to pierce through the gloom, locking onto Emily with an intensity that made her blood run cold. She could see the outline of its twisted form, and the realization that this was no ordinary creature sent a wave of fear crashing over her. Its claws, long and sharp as razors, scraped against the metal floor, sending sparks flying. The sound was deafening, a screech that echoed through the cabin. The monster had arrived, and Emily knew that their nightmare was only just beginning. The passengers' screams grew louder, blending with the monstrous growl, creating a cacophony of terror that filled the cabin. Section 5. Blood in the aisles. Panic erupted. Passengers scrambled for safety, their screams echoing through the confined space. But there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The creature moved with terrifying speed, its claws flashing out, leaving trails of blood and screams in its wake. Emily watched in horror as the monster tore through the cabin, its roars deafening, its stench suffocating. Her father, his face contorted in rage and fear, pushed her and Ethan towards the back of the plane, urging them to run. But it was too late. The creature was upon them, its jaws agape, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth.